Good Tuesday. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Doing this video right around noon. It's going to start before noon, finish afternoon. So it'll be this afternoon before you get this. But I want to update you on the latest thoughts on the winter storm that's going to impact some part of the Great Lakes region or Ohio Valley this weekend. Uh, to my eye, there's still a lot of uncertainty that's going on with that. So, I would be leery of any forecasts that are purporting to be too certain about anything. There's some things that are working for and against it, and I'm going to kind of show you what my thinking is regarding that. Before we get too far out into the future, though, we do have a wind advisory. The National Weather Service has issued a wind advisory that will go into effect at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning through 7 o'clock tomorrow evening for wind gusts, sustained winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour and gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour as a strong cold front pushes through. Our highs will be in the mid 50s today, maybe upper 50s. Had we been able to squeeze out a little bit of sunshine, we might have actually reached 60 degrees, but that's not looking like that's going to happen for us. But so it's going to be really warm today, and then a strong cold front is going to push through into the overnight hours. So tomorrow's high temperature is actually going to occur just after midnight tonight when it's still around 50 degrees. By 7 o'clock in the morning, the winds are going to be cranking up. The temperatures are going to be down into the mid 30s where they'll just kind of hang out a lot of the day. Tomorrow they'll slowly slide. So most of tomorrow, even though statistically the high will be around 50 degrees for tomorrow, the vast majority of the day it's going to be in the 30s. We could even see some snow flurries come through the area as this low pressure departs. So I wouldn't be surprised by some flurries tomorrow. But again, the story tomorrow is going to be the winds and it's going to be the falling temperatures. It's going to be cold tomorrow. Wind chills, probably in the teens. And then we're going to drop into the 20s by Thanksgiving morning. So with that in mind, let's now take a look at the storm system that's going to come through just after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to start off with the GFS. It's the one that makes the least sense, and so I'm going to go through this real quick, just to explain to you why it doesn't make sense, just from its own solution, why it doesn't make sense, let alone what's actually going on. This is Saturday morning, 7 a.m. It's got this 1,004 millibar low pressure sitting down here over the northern Texas panhandle, western Oklahoma panhandle. 1,004 millibar low is not a strong low, so it's going to be easy to push that low. You start getting down into the 900s, then the low's got a little more force behind it. So you've got a relatively weak low pressure right here. Then you've got a 1,040 millibar high pressure up here, which is a strong high pressure. Over here to the east, it's got 1,034 millibar high pressure. So the weaker high pressure is over here to the east. This low pressure is going to want to find the weakest point that between those high pressures that it can find. That's where it's going to want to travel, path of least resistance. So that is going to be away from this high and closer to this high. So in reality, this low pressure should want to come across something like this. The question becomes how far south. Another thing GFS is doing is there's actually a third high pressure that will be in play up in here that will also work to suppress and to stop this from making a big nasty hook like the GFS wants it to do. But even ignoring that third high pressure, just these two high pressures alone and the weak strength of this should make this one attract and chase this high pressure over here to the east and want to run off. You think about the circulation around high is this way, circulation around the low is this way. So it's building a track right in between these. This high pressure, circulation around this way, that's going to be a suppressing influence there. So this strong high pressure up here should push this low farther to the southeast. This relatively weak low pressure should be willing to be pushed. So just the GFS's solution doesn't make any sense. Got the grandfather clock chiming noon in the background. So I'll stop for just a second until that finishes. Okay, so that explains why I think that GFS is out to lunch with this. And you can see what it does. Let me get that cursor out of the way. It drops this low pressure down, then it kind of redevelops. It kind of weakens this back here and redevelops back here. Again, that doesn't make any sense. You can actually see where the curvature of the precipitation is. This low pressure is actually still here, and so then as this presses off, it puts this, now the core of the low is way up in here, and it's pushing this really hard to the northeast. And one thing it's doing is it's weakening this high pressure back here. That's not going to happen. It's a dominant high pressure, and it's not going to weaken. And then, but it doesn't weaken this, the weaker one out here to the east. And now they will try to equalize pressure somewhat, but this high pressure should continue to move. GFS kind of wants to put the brakes on the one to the east. That doesn't make any sense. And then it runs this low pressure really hard, well off to our west, way up into through Illinois and into Wisconsin. Again, given, and it backs this high pressure back, and then finally lets this high pressure move. I mean, nothing about what the GFS is doing makes any sense at all. So when you see a forecast that's based on the GFS that says we're not getting anything or we're only getting rain, I don't believe that. So, it just doesn't make any sense what the GFS is cranking out. So the GFS I was showing you was the 12Z. It had just finished running that. European and Canadian have not started running their 12Zs yet, or it hadn't started rendering yet. So this was the 6Z run of the European, and it's kind of splitting the difference now between what the GFS is doing and what the Canadian is doing. But I still think it has actually gone too far to the north. It had been very consistent. This is Saturday morning. It's done two things. One, it's slowed down, it's slowed the low pressure down, and then it is also allowing it to come farther to the north. But it's been really consistent about bringing this low pressure across central Indiana. So, what had been happening was this nose of snow right here had been over this way. This low pressure had been over this way. So we were going snow to rain and then backside snow, which actually to me right now is what makes sense. But this is what the latest, this 6Z run was doing, is it was tracking that low, but it was more of a west east instead of coming in from the southwest. It's a little more west east. Still brings the low across here. Not as much snow here in central Indiana, and then rain, and then it gets out of here, and then maybe some backside snow. I don't think that's actually the case. So let me show you what previous run of the European was doing. So here's what the European was doing at its 12Z run yesterday. To me, to my eye right now, this is what makes more sense. This is Saturday morning. You can see it's got this decent nose of snow out in front here. And then as that low pressure is actually way down here and tracks farther to the east before it turns north. So, Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon, we're getting a good thump of snow here across much of Indiana. Then as we get into the overnight hours, we will see this nose of rain start to push up as this low pressure starts to come up more toward central Indiana. And again, you could have some deformation up here where you could get some pretty decent snow right ahead of the nose that changes this over. Then there's your mix by the wee hours of Sunday morning, and then a switch to rain as the low pressure gets into southern Indiana, and then back to a mix, and then it gets out of here as cold air funnels back in. To me, that is the solution that makes the most sense, is what the Euro was doing at the 12Z yesterday. But that's not what it's doing today. But the Euro also has a habit of in the mid range, kind of moving to the northwest and then coming back. So you can kind of look at what it's doing when it's consistent. Sometimes it's all over the place, but when it's got a consistent solution for 2 or 3 days and suddenly moves away from it, it's probably going to come back to it. Again, as I always tell you, these are just model runs. The storm is going to do what the storm's going to do. The storm doesn't care what the models say. but these are at least some visualizations and help give an idea. So I'll take a look at the Canadian real quick, and then I'll kind of give you my thought process. So here's the zero Z run of the Canadian. This is what snow lovers are going to want to see. It comes in, it accounts for the high pressure back here, the high pressure over here, and another high pressure up to the north. It kind of accounts for all three. And you can see Saturday morning, it's got a decent nose of snow coming in. The low pressure's tracking way down here. Then as we get into the afternoon, evening hours of Saturday, it continues to snow. Then this is late Saturday evening into early Sunday. Then we get to the pre-dawn hours of Sunday morning or right around daybreak. It's still got snow here. The rain stays to the south in southern Indiana, and then the snow moves out, and it never has us rain here in central Indiana at all. So if you're a snow lover, that's your fantasy run, is that zero Z Canadian. I think that's too far south. GFS, I think, is way out to lunch. The like I said, yesterday's 12Z run of the European is what makes the most sense to me. So it's too early to make a forecast. This will start to come into the high resolution model data tomorrow. Again, it's just model data. I'm kind of watching what the storm's actually doing. It's still too early to get a good grip on how all these pieces are going to come together, other than we can see all the pieces. And again, the GFS does not see all the pieces. And it'll suddenly, 24 to 36 hours out, the GFS will suddenly see it, and then it'll nail it. But so again, what I expect right now is late Saturday morning, early Saturday afternoon, we start off with snow, maybe some heavy snow, maybe pick up 2 to 4 inches. And then by late Saturday evening, early Sunday morning, that briefly changes over to rain. And we might pick up a little bit of rain out of that. And then the cold air will pump right back in behind that low pressure as it gets past us. And then it changes back to a little bit of light snow. And then cold air moves back in. That's kind of what I think is going to happen right now. I think we're looking at a 2 to 4 inch snowfall before changing to some rain. If it does not change to rain, then we could be looking at a 4 to 6 inch snowfall. So we'll try to time this out as we get closer over the next. Start to see it a little better by tomorrow. But I just wanted to give you this update, give you my current thought process. Again, there's a lot of wish casting out there. People who hate snow that are saying it's going to rain. People who love the snow say it's going to be a mega snow, and the truth is in between somewhere, I believe. And so we'll see how this shapes up tomorrow, and we'll go from there. And as we're getting into the winter time, where I'm going to be updating you a lot more, if you can support this page financially, please do so. Go to the pinned post at the top of the Facebook page or at the top of the X page, and the information is there on how you can support the page. And thank you so much to the page sponsors and to those of you who are subscribers or donors who do support this page. Thank you very much. I'll update you again tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a lot better picture of how things are going to go tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, one last time, just as a reminder, we do have a National Weather Service has issued a wind advisory for tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for sustained winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusts 40 to 50. And again, tomorrow's high temperature is going to happen after midnight tonight. Most of tomorrow is going to be in the 30s and wind chills in the teens to lower 20s. So it's going to be cold tomorrow, and maybe some snow flurries happening tomorrow as well. So again, I'll update you as things become more clear. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Have a great day.